is up, you guys? Marty McFly coming at you, bringing you guys the merch. I know it's been a while since we've done one of these, so let's go ahead and do our vinyl and CD, just breakdown stuff I've been jamming to, stuff I bought recently, stuff that had to make the collection because I couldn't live without them. I'm actually been spending a lot of my energy between work and doing board certification for my job, so it's been a lot of work, and I really have been giving up the majority of my free time to, trying to hit the gym when I can, but everything is going to work or it's going to studying. And I can't believe in my mid-30s I'm still using the word and studying. I feel like that's all I've done for the vast majority of my life is work, and study, and repeat, rinse and repeat. But it gets me where I need to go. So sometimes you just got to do it. It sucks to be in your 30s and still have to give up every weekend dedicated to studying. But at the end of the day, I guess it's my craft. It's what I need to do to live, and it's something I've spent an entire lifetime dedicated to. So yeah, if you want to keep doing something, it takes a lot of effort on the off days. That was a little sideline, but I'm always curious, like, do you guys feel the same way? Or, are you guys pretty comfortable with your careers and your jobs to where you don't have to do things like that anymore, to where you're kind of steady? You don't need to give up, you don't need to give up the majority of your weekends. The majority of your weekends are for you. Or do you have jobs that consume your weekends where you constantly have to stay up and up and you still have to prepare, study, learn, do things? I'm just curious, but, I'm curious to hear your stories. So, of course, all that prep, all that time and energy means we need to have something to keep us busy, mentally sane or insane, and that, of course, means more metal. So, starting with this, I did not know about this when this first came out. This came off of Frontiers Records in 2023, and somehow I didn't know about this band. Withering Scorn. This is Prophets of Demise. If you don't know who this is, think of one of the greatest thrash and prog metal supergroups you've never heard of. And they really snuck under the radar, but one of the most talented bands I've ever heard in my entire life. The reason I call this a supergroup, because the guys that are in this used to be in Fates Warning, Megadeth. You got Joe DeBlaze from Fates in here. I mean, this really is another Fates Warning band as far as I'm concerned, because the very last Fates Warning album, So Long Goodnight, was a good album, but it was probably one of my least favorite Fates Warning albums. It wasn't that heavy. It was very, just kind of chill, kind of prog, but really very acoustic and not a heavy album. And that may be the last Fates album we ever get. Well, we have this. Withering Scorn, Prophets of Demise. Like I said, Frontiers Records 2023. This is one of the greatest thrash prog supergroups I have ever listened to. Melodic, beautiful guitar writing, amazing soaring guitar solos that are purposeful, melodic, melancholic, amazing vocals, really scratching the Fates Warning itch, a little bit of Dream Theater. If anything, I would say before Parasomnia, this wiped the floor with the last couple of Dream Theater albums. I think this is better, and I know this might be blasphemy, but I think this is better. There's less musical masturbation going on with it too. I think it's just metal. But one of my favorite finds ever. I'm so glad I found a copy of this. Can't wait it's not on vinyl right now. It's just on CD. As far as I know, if you find it on vinyl, let me know, but I didn't see any vinyl copies available. But yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about this record. If you haven't checked it out, check them out as soon as possible. If you like Fates, if you like Megadeth, if you like any of the Fates Warning side projects, if you like prog, if you like any of the James Lavery stuff, whether it's his solo stuff or if you like Dream Theater, I would say give these guys a shot. Next CD. I actually have not seen this record on vinyl, but my brother introduced me to this band maybe about a decade ago, and this is really a band that changed my life as far as bands that I want to hear modern new wave of British heavy metal. Like if you want a modern Iron Maiden, these guys, Pharaoh. This is The Longest Night. This is their debut album from Pharaoh. Honestly, the best out of all of them. I don't think they've ever hit that itch again. With the final record is good. There's a couple of copies left on vinyl and CD, but I don't think that record comes anywhere near close to this. This actually reminds me a little bit of what they did with Withering Scorn. There's not a lot of prog in it. There's not a lot of musical masturbation in it. This is just straight up Iron Maiden with like modern new wave of American heavy metal mixed together. I mean, it really is the blend of the two. You got a little bit of breakdowns, you got a little bit of hardcore influences, but mostly it's new wave of British heavy metal, but modern sounding, very clean, very melodic, melancholic vocals, beautifully sung, soaring over the guitar work. But the guitar work and just, I mean, the melodies obviously, but the guitar work is where this band shines. I mean, the singer is fantastic, really creates meaningful choruses that aren't just singing just to sing, you know, really meaningful choruses. But the guitar work is where this band blows everything out of the water. And this is one of the best, I would say this is easily, I don't know what you want to call it, top 50 heavy metal albums of all time. This should be one of them. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. This is Pharaoh. Unfortunately, they're not together anymore, but this record is worth the pickup. CDs. Now into the vinyl. If you guys don't know who they are, you should. This is Warning of Danger by Omen, Metal Blade Records. Now, this is not an OG press. I would love to have an OG press. You kidding me? You can still grab OG presses of this for not that bad, but I saw this on Amazon for a really reasonable price to the point where I'm like, I need to pick this up. This is the Metal Blade release of this record. So this is Metal Blade release. Oh, they're all Metal Blade releases, Marty. But this is like the new anniversary of Metal Blade Records release. And on a really cool orange and blue splatter vinyl, kind of goes with the cover album. Of course, we have our lyric sheets and then really nice band poster here. But I love the cover. Love the cover. Warning of Danger by Omen. This is like, when you think about Metal Blade Records and the bands that signed with them and then just, you know, made their impact on the world, I think especially of Omen. This is easily, if I can put this back inside, we can't put it back inside, but I would say between this and the name of which escapes me, but the Wolf album, you know what I mean, where they actually play a sound clip from An American Werewolf in London, that record, so the one that just came out right after this one, but I don't know why I can't think of it right now. Anyway, that album and this one, Warning of Danger, are probably my top two favorite Omen records, and most people would probably agree those are their favorites as well. But I've always wanted a copy, like an OG copy, but I found this, and I'm very, very happy to pick up this version, the Metal Blade Anniversary Edition, so that's pretty cool. Now, everywhere across the nation, and record stores everywhere, there was a midnight release party for this band and another artist. My apologies, I don't remember her name. It's not out of anything, it's just like I was too busy focused on this band. Now, this band, you know, you either love them or you don't get it, or you don't love them. And I would say there's a couple albums by them that I'm like, you know, okay, whatever. But the first 3 or 4 albums by this band were all incredible. Really big starters in the movement for nu metal. And of course, this is the newest record by Deftones. And I, of course, got the purple cover as opposed to the green, which is a little bit more common. But this is Private Music, Deftones. Phenomenal so far from everything I've played on it. Really is a wonderful album, and I would say one of the best albums since Saturday Night Wrist. There, I said it. You know, Koi no Yokan and Gore, I mean, they were fine albums. I have no issues with them. They were fun to play, but I would feel like nothing is struck as like what this album did. Now, this is, like I said, the indie music store edition. They had a midnight release party, and unfortunately, I chickened out. And I was like, I could go to Rust and Wax. It's probably the nearest record store, but it's still quite a bit of a drive. But the problem was just getting there, man. And, you know, I was like, you know, I got to get up at 5 and to go to work. And I was like, it just didn't feel like the right thing to do. But every record store across, they did a midnight release party. There's posters. I'm really bummed I didn't get the poster for this. And I even asked if they had any left over. Like, no, dude, we sold out instantly. But what they did come up with it was the Do Not Disturb. It says I'm listening to private music. So I was happy to at least have that. But yeah, man, I love the cover. I don't know why people have a problem with this, but I love the Viper cover to this, you know, I couldn't tell you what kind of snake it is, and I don't think anyone can, but, I mean, it could be like, I mean, the color's not real, but I mean, it could be, actually, it may not even be a viper. It could be like a milk snake or something. I really, kind of hard to tell. Phenomenal album so far. There's really not a lot of screaming, like, in their first couple records, but this itself reminds me so much of Saturday Night Wrist and Adrenaline and White Pony, like that era of Deftones reminds me so much of them. So phenomenal record. If you guys haven't checked it, check it out, man. These guys did a phenomenal job with this. So of course, I didn't make it to the midnight release party, but I ended up going the next day. I pre-ordered it through the record store, and they had the purple copy, so I was glad to have that. But while I was shopping, we had to get stuff. Deep Purple, Machine Head, a hard rock, metal album, classic rock, whatever album that changed everyone's life when this came out. I mean, really changed heavy music permanently. And it's a phenomenal album. It's, for not that many tracks, the album itself is, each song is pretty long. I mean, I would say this, Custom Center label, really nice job on Warner Brother Records. But as far as metal and hard rock goes, I mean, this album changed music, and it changed prog, it changed heavy metal. And these guys continue doing it. And I don't mean just because of Smoke on the Water, or Machine Head, or every other song that's on here, but the album itself is just fantastic. And, this is another one I've always wanted a first edition copy. Kind of hard to get, but I'm sure you could probably get it for a reasonable price. It's like, there's copies lurking around. But I saw this was a 1977 US pressing. Like for $18, I love old used albums. So for me, this was just like, I had to have it. Like, I love it when they're kind of beaten up a little bit because it tells a story of how it's aged. And it sounds great, feels amazing. This is like heavy vinyl too, like not just other than the fact that the encasing and the cardboard is really heavy stock, which a lot of albums, even like my old Sabbath first presses, aren't heavy stock like this one is. But even the vinyl feels like it's got to be around 140 gram because it's heavy. But yeah, love this band, love this album. 1977 US pressing, pretty excited to have that for $18. Heck yeah, it's coming home with daddy. Now, the last one, I can't play. I can't play this until my boards are done. And when this came out, this was like my introduction to this band and my introduction essentially to hardcore without even realizing I was being introduced to hardcore. And, these guys are kind of carrying the torch along with like Terror and, just like, I would say carrying the torch for hardcore music and heavy metal, new wave of American heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. But you think about the bands that are just, they're kind of like big name beacons. They're big money makers, big attractors. And the first time I saw them, I didn't realize what this band meant to the heavy metal scene. And you either like their lead singer or you don't. Personally, I think he's a blast. This guy has been helping push heavy metal into the mainstream and making sure it stays relevant. And he's got his own talk show. He was on Headbangers Ball. He's done so much for the heavy metal scene. And this record itself, the lyrics are so meaningful, and I would say this album is more hardcore than some of their other records when they became a little bit more polished, a little bit more known. I would say this is the closest they've stuck to like their hardcore roots. I mean, when I think of like, classic hardcore bands, even if you're going back to like the old New York scene, I mean, even like a little bit of Biohazard influence maybe. But I think of all those bands that came out of the New York scene and what this has done, even though this isn't a New York-based band, but what the influences these guys pulled from, like the New York hardcore scene or the LA hardcore scene, and created their own project. I give you Hatebreed, Perseverance. You have to love them or you hate them. Personally, I love what Hatebreed's stuff. I love what they've done, and I had to have it. The fact that it was on vinyl, I think they've repressed this before, but this is like their first real press on vinyl. And Perseverance is probably my favorite Hatebreed record, and I think it's everybody else's probably close. Their newest record was phenomenal, loved it. The last couple they've done, I loved everything they've done, but I really enjoyed this album because this feels like the most centered around like classic hardcore. And I mean, I love what they did with it, but of course, I had to get it because Jamie Josta signed it, and it really wasn't that expensive for what you're getting. This album was already expensive to begin with, and all you have to do is push a button. You pay, like, you don't even think you paid extra for it, but Jamie would sign it. I think that's just cool, man, that, they're still sticking to their roots. They're still sticking at like a hardcore band where you go to shows and they sign all your stuff and they're not too big. The fact that Jamie's still signing stuff and he's not charging you extra for it is awesome. It just speaks to the character. So good on you, Jamie, man. I love your band, love this record, love the fact that you signed it for me, man. I really appreciate that. Came in really great condition, but yeah, man, one of my favorite Hatebreed records, but I can't listen to it. I have a thing. Whenever I had tests or I have something big coming up and I'm preparing, I can't listen to new stuff that I bought. I basically have to sit there and stare at it because I feel like it's almost like bad luck. I want to listen to it when it's done and I'm celebrating. So tomorrow, I get to play this. So yeah, man, Hatebreed, Perseverance, phenomenal album, on vinyl, signed by Jamie Josta. Really made my day that he did that. And that's it from me, guys. We got a big day tomorrow. Hopefully it all goes well. Knock it out of the park, and I don't have to revisit this thing again. But what are you guys jamming to, man? I want to hear your stories. I want to hear about, how you guys are doing in the world these days. What bands? What artists are you listening to? What festivals are you going to? What shows are you going to? What CDs have you picked up? All right, but hope you guys are taking care of each other. Hope you guys are doing well. You remember that guy falls down the pit, pick his ass back up, and peace.